In the city center of Rome, close to the famous Spanish Steps, there is a small fountain made in white travertine stones. The shape of the fountain is like a small boat, and everybody knows it with the name of Barcaccia fountain. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to think about the Spanish Steps without thinking about this very small boat. But many years ago, the Barcaccia fountain was really in danger. Once upon a time, 100 years ago, there was the city of Rome. The city was completely different from what we see today. There were not so many cars, not so many buses and trams, not so much pollution in the air. But the city was full of chariots and horses. And in that very city, 100 years ago, the first electric trams began to appear. Imagine the happiness of the Roman citizens. They had these new means of transportation, very fast, all for them. And the mayor of Rome was so incredibly happy that he wanted to build tram tracks everywhere in the city to let the tram reach every single corner of the city. He had a wonderful idea in his mind. He had a big project he wanted to build. The tram tracks close to the Spanish Steps. They had to turn around the Barcaccia fountain. They had to go straight in the long road behind the fountain, via Condotti. But before starting this incredible project, the mayor of Rome took a look to the Barcaccia. And he thought, the Barcaccia was a very delicate artwork. It was very old. It was more than 400 years old. There was the risk of damaging it. There was the risk of hitting it with something during the construction works. So he called a big team of artisans and workers and asked them to make a big wooden fence all around the Barcaccia fountain to protect it from everything. It was the last day of the month of March. During the afternoon, this big team of people came close to the Spanish Steps, bringing wooden beams, bringing nails, bringing hammers, and they started working and started fixing all the nails with the hammers, and the only sound you can hear all around the Spanish Steps was the sound of the hammer hitting the nails, tock, tock, and piece of wood after piece of wood, nail after nail, this enormous fence was built. It was very tall as it was a fortress, and the Barcaccia fountain completely disappeared. Everything was ready for the works that would have started the day after. The next day, Mr. Giovanni, that had his own house close to the Spanish Steps, he was going out for a walk together with his dog, as every morning he did. He was walking, he took a look to the fence around the Barcaccia, and he noticed it, a very small sign fixed at the wooden beams. Mr. Giovanni didn't see very well, so he put on his glasses, he came a little bit closer, and he read. And what he read left him completely shocked. On the sign, there was written, "Dear Roman citizens, in order to protect the Barcaccia fountain And in order to let the tram tracks cross the square, tomorrow the Barcaccia fountain will be moved to Milan. Signed, the Mayor of Rome. Mr. Giovanni couldn't believe. He was speechless. He ran to his house and he called his wife Helen and he said, Helen, you don't know, the mayor wants to move the Barcaccia fountain to Milan. Helen looked at Giovanni and said, but what are you saying? The Barcaccia fountain is part of the city of Rome. It's impossible. No, it's true. I read it on a sign. There is the signature of the mayor of Rome. It's on the fence. And Helen said, oh my God, and ran toward the neighbor and she said to the neighbor, you don't know, the mayor is crazy. He wants to move the Barcaccia fountain to Milan. And the neighbor of Helen went to the store across the street and said to a man into the store, and he said, oh my God, the mayor wants to move the Barcaccia fountain to Milan. And month after month, year after year, this incredible and terrible news spread all over the city of Rome. People at first were without words. Then they were surprised. Then they were angry. Then they were very angry. So they took stones in their hands. They took whistle. They took pans to make noise. They took poster, big poster, and 10, 100, 1,000 people all together ran toward the Capitoline Hill, the place where there is the office of the mayor of Rome, to complain against this decision. The mayor of Rome was in his office, and he saw from his balcony all this crowd approaching, as there were thousands of hands that were coming in a crazy way, filling the square, and there were so many that from his balcony the mayor of Rome couldn't see the floor of the square anymore, and he couldn't understand why those people were so angry. They started screaming toward him. You can't move the Barcaccia fountain! The Barcaccia belongs to the Romans! You can't! The mayor of Rome from his window, he said, but I don't know what you are talking about. It was not my decision. I don't know anything about it. I swear. But people started screaming and throwing stones at his windows, saying, you're a liar. We don't believe you. You're a liar. The Barcaccia belongs to the Romans. You're a liar. And they throw all the stones. And they also use the whistle and the pans and the posters. And they get angrier and angrier. The mayor of Rome was terrified. It was a big problem. He couldn't leave his office. He couldn't come back to his house. It was his whole life was at risk. The policemen were really surprised, shocked, and they couldn't do anything against this big uprising that was becoming more and more a war. The situation was getting more and more dangerous as the sun started going down behind the palaces. And in that very moment, a man appeared among the crowd. He was dressed in a long brown coat. The collar of the coat was on his mouth. He had a pair of black glasses and a hood covering his head completely. This mysterious man came closer to the most important man of the uprising and whispered into his ear. The man turned his head. He couldn't see anyone. he had a stone in his hand. He left the stone and it falls into the ground. The man turned his head toward his companion and whispered into his ear. The other man had 2 pans in his hand to make noise. Opened the hands and let the pans fall down onto the floor. And month after month, year after year, this mysterious new brought by the man with the long coat spread among the crowd. All the stones fell down to the floor, all the posters fell down, all the whistles, and exactly as they came into the square, all those people started slowly going back into their houses. Some of them were laughing, other people were shaking their heads. The mayor of Rome was surprised. He couldn't understand how this uprising, so dangerous, in 1 second, stopped, vanished as by miracle, without doing anything. He left his office, looking around, fearing nobody was here. So he went back to his house without the help of any policeman. All the people went back to their houses. All of them were laughing, joking, speaking of something else. Nobody was angry anymore. The Barcaccia fountain was kept exactly where it was. Nobody moved it. And if you come in Rome, you can see the Barcaccia fountain is still in front of the Spanish steps. What did this mysterious man say in the ear of that important man? Do you want to know? The man with the long coat came closer to the ear of this man and whispered these words. Don't worry, the Barcaccia fountain is not going anywhere. Nobody's gonna move it because it was all an April Fool. We have never known the name of this mysterious man. We have never known his identity. But we know for sure that the man with his long coat went on laughing for this successful joke for the rest of his life.